The moment everything broke was loud enough to echo through the glass walls of the office. A moment where fear, love, desperation, and courage collided in a single breath. My job, my reputation, and my future balanced on the edge of one step forward. Power sat on one side of the room, heartbreak on the other, and I stood in between with nothing left to lose, knowing that whatever I did next would change both our lives forever. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel, The Kindness Chronicles, so stories like this can keep reaching hearts that need them. I had started at the company the way most people start anywhere that promises stability and growth, with quiet hope and a careful smile. I was not special, not connected, not powerful. I was simply someone who worked hard, stayed late, and tried to matter. The company itself was impressive, sharp lines of steel and glass rising above the city like a promise of success. And at the top of it all was her. She was known as brilliant, distant, unbreakable. People whispered her name with respect and fear, describing her as ruthless in meetings and cold in decisions. To me, she was my boss, and at first nothing more. She barely noticed me, and when she did, it was usually to correct something I had missed or to push me harder. I told myself it was normal, that greatness demanded pressure, and that surviving under it meant I belonged. Over time, something shifted. Late nights became routine, deadlines stacked higher, and exhaustion became a shared language. I began to notice the way her shoulders stiffened when she thought no one was watching, the way her hands trembled slightly after difficult calls, the quiet pauses she took before entering meetings, as if she were putting on armor. I saw loneliness behind the authority, a kind of isolation that power often builds instead of breaking. I did not intend to care, but caring has a way of growing without permission. I stayed late not just to finish work, but to make sure things were easier for her. I took blame for mistakes that were not mine. I shielded her from small disasters before they reached her desk. She noticed, slowly, carefully, like someone afraid to trust a warm hand after years of cold. The company, however, was not kind. Rumors began, as they always do, soft and poisonous. Someone noticed how often I was called into her office. Someone decided to connect dots that did not exist. Meetings felt heavier. Eyes followed me in hallways. My performance reviews stayed strong, but the air around us grew tense. She became sharper, more distant again, as if cutting off something before it could hurt her. I tried to tell myself it was professional, that my feelings were my own problem, but emotions do not listen to logic. They press against your ribs until breathing hurts. The breaking point came on a night when the city outside was soaked in rain, and neon reflections blurred against the windows. A major deal had collapsed, and the board wanted answers. Stress filled every corner of the office like smoke. I was called into her office late, exhaustion written into every line of her face. The air was thick with unspoken things. Accusations were flying from above, and she needed someone to blame. Power looks strongest when it is most afraid, and that night fear sharpened her voice into something cutting. She accused me of crossing lines, of making things complicated, of being a risk she could not afford. Every word landed like a blow, because behind the authority was panic, and behind the panic was someone who had never learned how to lean on anyone. Felt something inside me fracture. I had given everything I had, not for promotion or praise, but because I believed in her, in us as people trying to survive a brutal world. Being reduced to a liability hurt more than losing the job ever could. When she threatened to fire me, if I took one more step forward, it was not just about physical distance. It was about drawing a line between us, a final wall, and in that moment, something in me chose honesty over safety. I stepped forward not out of rebellion, but out of love, out of exhaustion, out of the desperate need to be seen as human. The kiss was not reckless or hungry. It was brief, gentle, and full of everything I had never said. It was an apology, a confession, and a goodbye all at once. Time seemed to stop. The world outside the office faded into nothing. When I pulled away, I expected anger, security, consequences. Instead, I saw shock, then something softer, something that looked like grief finally given permission to breathe. She did not push me away. She did not call for anyone. She stood there, unmoving, as if the moment had cracked open something she had kept buried for years. Power dissolved, just for a second, leaving behind a tired woman who had been alone for far too long. The days that followed were heavy with uncertainty. I prepared myself to be fired, to pack my desk into a cardboard box and disappear into the city like so many before me. Instead, I was called into a meeting with human resources, with legal present, with clear boundaries drawn. She stepped back from direct authority over me. The company shifted roles to protect professionalism. It was not a fairy tale solution, but it was a humane one. More importantly, something inside her changed. She apologized, not with grand gestures, but with quiet accountability. She admitted she had hidden behind power because vulnerability terrified her. I admitted I had crossed a line because silence felt like erasure. We both owned our mistakes. What followed was not instant happiness, but slow rebuilding. Trust does not bloom overnight. We learned how to speak honestly without hiding behind titles. We learned that strength does not come from control, but from courage. Outside the office, away from glass walls and expectations, we discovered who we were without roles attached to our names. Two imperfect people carrying old wounds, choosing each day to be kinder than yesterday. The company survived the scandal. The deal was renegotiated. Life moved forward the way it always does, messy and unbalanced, but something deeper had shifted. People noticed the change in leadership, the softer edges, the way empathy began to guide decisions instead of fear. Kindness, once dismissed as weakness, became a quiet force that reshaped the culture from within. As this story nears its end, if it touched your heart, if it reminded you that people are more than their titles and mistakes, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement tells us these stories matter, that compassion still has a place in the world. Before you leave, I have one special request. Please comment this line below so we know you stayed until the end and felt the message. Kindness is always worth the risk.